Hello there, Year 5, and welcome to your third computing lesson this half term, ready for week 5. We are carrying on our work in terms of spreadsheets and using ToCalculate to identify and solve problems. Last week, you guys did a great job of trying to identify what the most popular letters were in words in the English language. And I was really interested to see what you came up with and what you added in when you did that quiz. Just like this lesson here today, guys, if you ever need to pause, go back, rewind, watch what I'm doing, have another go, that's absolutely fine. You can also talk to your teachers in your live sessions, and then there's that Purple Mash quiz at the end, just to make sure that you've really understood what it is that we are up to today and what you are focusing on in your learning. So without further ado, let's jump straight back into ToCalculate. So if you haven't already, make sure you have paused me and got ToCalculate up, and we are then going to jump straight into our Purple Mash session today and look at what we are creating. So here we go into your Purple Mash. Now, again, as usual, I'll try and normally set these as a to-do. So you will find them in your tools and then into maths and then ToCalculate. Then if you launch that app, we'll get into that learning for today. Now, whenever you log in like this, just remember from our first session, you need to make sure that you get a blank sheet. So I can do that by going to sheet, get an empty sheet like that. I can put that in here, and I want to go to advanced mode. So I want to click on that one there. So I've got my advanced mode. Now, what I want us to do today is we're going to try and solve a bit of a question for a farmer. And the farmer is looking to, very nicely, farmer shepherd's sheep. And we're trying to figure out how many sheep and we can fit into an area if we have a perimeter of 12. That's the question we're asking. I'm going to go into a bit more detail about what this will look like. So if you look at the example I've got here you've got an example of a field. Okay, so this field is here in green, and here is Farmer McFlock. He's got his sheep, and he's got 12 meters of fence. Now, this line here, each of these lines is equal to 1 meter. It's not to scale, don't worry about that, but we're trying to figure out if every sheep needs one of those boxes, how many sheep can he fit inside of 12 meters of fence? Remember from our maths learning, we call that the perimeter. So the perimeter is how many meters around we've got. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you see that? That's my perimeter of 12 meters. Okay, now if I put my 12 meters in a fence like this here, I end up with an area of 8 meters squared. Can you see that? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 meters squared. But is that the biggest space that I can enclose with 12 meters of fence? I wonder if I could use 12 meters of fence line to create some different shapes, and that's what we're going to try and have a go at today. So when you go into your ToCalculate, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my sheep. So if I click on a cell like this one here, I can then go to my image box down here. That's this one I'm focusing on here. Click on that, and I can then set the image. If I then go up in here to this box up here, my clip art, I can click on my clip art and I can find an animal. Okay, so I'm going to try and find myself a sheep. If you can't find a sheep, maybe you want to farm cows in yours, or ducks, or camels, or crocodiles. It could be anything you come up with, but I'm going to start with a sheep. Okay, let's see if I can get my sheep. There is a nice sheep. Let's get my sheep and let's put it in. It clicks on there and it will then show up in this box. Now, take a few seconds, make sure it's in there before you click OK, and then click OK. So I've now got my sheep that I'm putting into my fence line. Okay, now I want to think about my field size. So I need to remember, guys, that I'm doing a 12 meters around field size. Okay, so the way I can share that, the way I can put that information into a box, is I can think about what is the height of my field, what is the width of my field, and then what will that mean in terms of the area and the perimeter. Okay, that's what I'm trying to have a look at and what I'm trying to create. Okay, now if you remember my last one here, I can have a look at that last piece of information. I can have a look at this one here. Do you remember I had it was 2 meters long high here, and it was 4 meters wide, my length, my height, and my width. So it was 2 by 4. 2 here was my height and 4 was my width. Now, can you remember what the area of that was? And how can I find the area? Think about your mathematics. How can I find the area of the field using the height and the width? What do I do to those two numbers? Have a little think. Have a little go. Have you been able to figure that out? Hopefully what you said is I need to times the height by the width, and that will give me the area. If I go back to that example again, that would be 2 times 4 here. And if you look at it, 2 times 4, an area of 8 meters squared. So that's what I'm looking for here. So I need to put that answer in this box. Now I could just do that in my head, couldn't I? I could do that in my head and find out the answer. Or I can use what's called a formula. Now we looked at a little bit about these in our first week when we were converting between meters and centimeters. But just to remind you how we can go about this, if you want to pause me and have a go now and then see how you do, but you want to try and put the formula in here in this box to try and find the area so it does it for you. Have a go and see how you do. Okay, did you manage to do it? If not, don't worry, let's go through the steps together. So I want the answer to go in this box here. So I'm going to click on here, my formula wizard. Click on my formula wizard, and it gives me this calculation. So select the first cell of the calculation. Well, that's my height. So I'm going to click on the height there. A5 is my one. Yours might be slightly differently laid out, but that's what it's coming there. And then I want it to times, and I want it to times B5, don't I? I want to be times this box here. So I'm going to click on that box there, and then I'm going to click OK. And there it comes. There's my answer. 8 has gone into that box for my area. Now, the perimeter needs to be removed 12 meters because it has to be the same perimeter for every one of these. Now, finding the perimeter is a little bit trickier, isn't it? I've got to do something a little bit different in order to find the perimeter because I've got to identify the height twice and the width twice and add those together. Okay, now to do that, there are lots of different things I can do. I can even try and do my own formula in here. Do you want to have a go now and see if you can create your own formula to try and create that and put that together? Have a go and see what you do. See how you can figure it out. Okay, how did you do? Did it work? Let's think about making our own formula now and what we're putting into here, okay? So what I need to happen is I need A5 to be times by 2, and I need B5 to be times by 2, and I need it to be then added together. So if I go back to this sheet here, I'm just going to show you what that formula should look like. So if I scroll down here, I can see it here. There we go. So I need my formula to equal 2 times, and in this one here it was B9 plus 2 times C9. That's what I'm looking for it to create. So if I go back into my formula box here, I can put the equal sign. Oh, that's my plus sign. Put the equal sign. It's equaling A5. Now I need to put this in brackets. So I need to this the times by 2. So I'm putting in brackets A5. And it's going to times by 2. So put that little time symbol in there. That's what I'm looking for from here. So I can put that here, times. Oh, sorry, that hasn't quite worked. Let me just undo that and go back to that and try that again. A5, and I want to times that by 2. Oh, my goodness, it doesn't want to work across there. My keyboard doesn't like me putting in the times button on here, but I want to put in the asterisk. So my asterisk is near my T. So I'm just going to put that there and see if I can get the right one to come up there into that box. Let's see if that's going to come up for me. There we go. There's my times. And I want it to times A5. I want it times by 2, don't I? Because I want it to be that box times by 2. I'm then going to close that bracket because that has to happen on its own first, and then I'm going to put my plus sign in, and I want to add it on to 2 lots of B5. So I then open my brackets again, and I'm going to put this time B5. So here goes my B and 5, because whatever's in that cell I want it to times by 2, and I then need to put my time symbol again, which is my asterisk, and I'm going to times it by 2. Okay, that's the formula I want it to appear. Now, if I then click enter, it should then work and figure out the answer to that box. And there it is. There's my answer of 12. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to change the information in the height and the width box to see if you can get the biggest area possible without changing the perimeter. So let's talk that through, make sure we're really clear on what I'm doing. So here is my field. I have got at the moment, I've got a height of 2 and I've got a box width of 4. So here's my width of 4. There it is as it's coming across. Hopefully you can all see that on my screen. there is my field as it stands. So I could fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sheep in that particular box for my perimeter of 12. But I could make a slightly different cuboid with, sorry, not cuboid, a rectangle using those particular sets of perimeters. So I think, right, well, what can I change that to figure out to get the same perimeter? So, for example, I could have a height of 1, couldn't I? I could have a height of 1. How long could I make that particular field with a height of 1? Now I can plus open here. I can get a slightly larger cell, so I've got more of my spreadsheet, so I can add in some more elements if I need to. Okay, but if I've got 1 here and I go across 2, 3, 4, 5, let's see it, that one there. So I've got a height of 1 and I've got a width of 5. So look at that one there. So if I've got a height of 1 and I've got a width of 5, my perimeter is 12. So I've used the 12 bits of fence line that I've got, but my area is only 5. So here I got an area of 8 meters square. But here I've only got an area of 5 meters square. So that's not better. Can you have a go now and try and see if you can find different heights and different widths to try and identify and find the biggest area with a perimeter of 12? Off you go. Pause me, have a go, see how you do. Okay, are you back? How did you do? Did you manage to find one that was bigger than an area of 8 centimeters square? I wonder if you were. I'm going to have a little investigation myself. I'm just going to have a go. I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm going to try 3 for my less than 5. So if I put maybe 4, let's see, oh, that's 14. That's still too large. Let's put a width of 3. There I've got a perimeter of 12, and this time I've got an area of 9. Yes, that is larger. I wonder now, if you haven't already, if you could draw out that field of 3 by 3 and prove to me that you've also managed to find that sheep with the same height. Now, my lovelies, that is the final challenge for this week's learning. Hopefully you've managed to use all those different formula to create some different areas and perimeters. Now, what you could do is you could follow this experiment by doing a little bit more and use squares and find out what the biggest perimeter you could have with 8 squares is. If you've got 8 square meters, what's the largest perimeter you can have? And I can do that just by changing some of these bits of information in my height and width to create different solutions and calculations. It's now over to you to have a play. Once you finish, please make sure that you quiz, just showing me you've understood and identified all the information we talked about in this video. I will see you next week, year 5, for your last video before the half term for our last computing session. I will see you then. Bye.